Before we get into anything today, I want to thank Aura for sponsoring today's video and helping me a lot in terms of my overall wellness journey, and I'm really excited to tell you more about them in a few minutes. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hello. If you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking around. I really appreciate you. So we are in a different setup today. Ignore like everything that's happening behind me, kindly. Thank you. We very much need to have like a girl talk, catch up, chit chat kind of situation, and that is coming. So don't worry. Me and my girlfriend did break up, so yeah, but it's more nuanced than that. It's not like nothing super bad happened, none of that. But that is what I have been going through for the last, like, I think I mentioned it in the last video. But yeah, so life has been crazy, hectic for me. And so I thought, what better way to start filming in this new-ish setup for me, than a reaction, because honestly there's been some very interesting discourse happening on the fat acceptance side of the internet, and I want to talk about it. So we're here. My background is a mess, so yeah, let's just get into it. But before we get into today's video, I want to thank today's video sponsor, Aura. Aura is the new all-in-one app for mental wellness and sleep that provides the world's largest resource library for things like meditation, affirmations, podcasts, all of that kind of stuff. Over 7 million people choose Aura, and it has won Best of Apple in the Apple App Store. Aura offers the most extensive library of mindfulness meditation, sleep aids, life coaching, cognitive behavioral therapy, which we'll talk about in a second, breathwork, hypnosis, spirituality and prayer, and much, much more. They also partner with hundreds of coaches and therapists to help provide you this extensive library, and that was really important to me to know. I'm not gonna lie, I normally find things like Aura like a little bit cheesy and like unnecessary, especially when it comes to like affirmations and stuff like that. But I've also been feeling like severe levels of burnout, both professionally and personally, for like the last year, if I'm being honest. And so I was very interested because I had heard good things when this opportunity was presented to me. Believe me when I say this, because I wouldn't if I didn't mean it. This app is very cool. I have been using Aura's meditations and affirmations in the morning. Just I listen to them in my ears or with my earbuds in, because I have been focusing more on being a mindful consumer when it comes to media, and I had been noticing that the typical like drama or like gossip YouTube videos that I would listen to in the morning, or true crime podcasts that I'd listen to in the morning, were no longer helping me. In fact, they were just stressing me out more than I was when I'd wake up in the morning. Using Aura in place of that, because Aura does have podcasts too, has honestly really been helping me. And I was very leery of the usage of the term CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, as someone who has been practicing cognitive behavioral therapy in therapy since like 4th grade. Mentally ill girlies rise up. And I was pleased to see that the people who did the CBT offerings were psychologists, and had credentials. I honestly don't think this can replace like actual therapy. I kind of dubbed these like CBT besties in that like they helped me really further what I talk about in my therapy sessions outside of the therapy sessions, and helped guide me through like actually working through those ideas on my own. So if you think that Aura sounds like a good thing for you to give a try, I really recommend it. The first 500 people to click the link down in my description will get a free trial and 25% off after that trial ends. And I was also given a free trial, and I can honestly say that after that trial is up, I'm definitely going to be paying for this service, because I've really found it beneficial for myself. And so yeah, be sure, if you want to give it a try, to be one of the first 500 people to click the link down below, and you will get that free trial and 25% 25% off if you want to keep your journey of well-being and inner peace going after that trial ends. Thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring today's video and just for introducing me to Aura. And thank you to all of you guys, as per usual, for continuing to interact with my content so that brands like Aura want to keep working with me. Okay, now let's get back into the video. All right, I'm gonna scooch over here and we're gonna put the reactions right here to cover everything. Okay, let's get into it.
Here's why it doesn't really make sense when you say they're fine to be fat. It's just about me. I'm not fine with being fat. There's this big cultural understanding in the whole field of weight loss that it's just about ourselves. And, you know, other people, I don't judge them for being fat. There's a little bit of a dissonance there. Why do you not like being fat? What are the factors for you? What are the underlying beliefs of that? That's the point where things kind of fall apart. Because if you want to say like, oh, I just want to be healthier, or I want to look better, or blah, 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 blah. There are beliefs that are underpinning that. You think thinness is related to health. It's a direct correlation. Maybe you think thinness is more attractive. Maybe. You don't exist in a vacuum. And so those uninterrogated background beliefs are going to bleed out on everyone else. It's just easier to ignore them when they're other people, but they're still there and they're still influencing your interactions with these people. When we have a situation like that where it's like, oh, I'm not fine with it, but I'm fine with other people, it's really, really important to interrogate where that comes from. Because it influences how you see the world, it influences how you move through it, and it does color your interactions with people. So it's just important to be aware of those things and not just keep creating distance, because it's really important to know where they come from. And yeah.
Okay, so that's Splotchmaker. We have not seen Splotchmaker, I think, in a while, if I'm correct in remembering that. This is like a perfect example of how fat acceptance makes people believe that like you shouldn't lose weight because it's going to hurt other people's feelings. And when it comes to, if you're new here, I had weight loss surgery 5 years ago. I used to heavily partake in or take in fat acceptance content, and through weight loss and stuff I realized kind of how half-ass backwards a lot of their messaging is. And yeah, so I think this is like a perfect example of how the fat acceptance movement really, like we've talked about before, first of all, infantilizes fat people and makes fat people seem like they are not emotionally intelligent enough to, like, I don't know, not be offended by certain things and recognize that other things may just be what other people want to do for themselves. And when it comes to losing weight and stuff, like, I really think that it is just one of the most personal choices that you can make, because it's literally, unless maybe you have like kids or something like that, in my case I didn't, and I don't, it's literally only going to affect you, right? It's something you are only doing for yourself. And I think, again, she brings up like thinness equals health. Oh my god, my nose, it's really early, my body is like, what are you doing? Why are you working at 6:30 in the morning? Anyway, like, she brings up thinness equals health, which she doesn't obviously believe, and a lot of fat activists don't believe. And honestly, I don't really believe either. But when it comes to being morbidly obese versus being smaller, a lot of times when you lose weight, and obviously there's nuance to this conversation too, because it does depend how you do it and what happened and all of that. But if you do it in a healthy way or in a way that is monitored by health professionals, usually your health does it get better. And that was my situation. That still is my situation. I was pre-diabetic. My liver was not functioning correctly. I was on the road to non-alcoholic fatty liver, all of that. And I was able to flip that through weight loss and weight loss surgery. Back to the other people's opinions or other people's feelings things, because when you lose weight, you have to get kind of selfish. You have to just do it for yourself, and it has to be such an act of self-love. You can't do it out of hatred, personally, I don't think, because I don't think you're going to get the results that you want, both mentally or physically, but it has to be a selfish thing, and you have to put yourself first, which isn't necessarily selfish. You just have to put yourself first. Factoring in other people's feelings and stuff about that really can't be part of the conversation, and I know this doesn't really go with Splashmaker's entire platform, because she doesn't think that intentional weight loss is a good thing in general, for the most part. And yeah, but like, you have to not care about that. And I will say that I do understand where she's coming from, where she says that it can affect a lot of, I guess, former fat people's view of the world and of society when they lose weight and other people haven't. I can totally understand that. Like, I've had people be like, well, I don't understand why more people just didn't do what you did. Like, it worked for you. But like, losing weight and especially having weight loss surgery are two huge decisions that you have to make and huge commitments that you have to make. And I don't think people who haven't done that realize it, and maybe people who have done it forgot how big of a deal it was to come to that decision. And so I do understand where she's coming from with that, because I do think that there are a lot of creators potentially who have lost weight or whatever who have kind of forgotten what it was like to be fat. But for the most part, if the people you are seeing, particularly online, because we all know, I think, that a lot of fat activists are chronically online, which I am also myself, I think if you are seeing people who are fat and who were fat and have lost weight and are now actively being like legitimately hateful, which what fat activism claims as hatred is usually not hatred. But if they're being legitimately hateful, then I would suggest just not following those people anymore. And again, that goes back to the infantilizing, the just assuming that fat people who are on the internet are just like not emotionally intelligent enough to just unfollow people or block people that they don't agree with. Like, I think there is something to be said about the block button and how important it can be on social media sometimes. And yeah, so I just thought this was like a perfect example of like, don't lose weight, or else you're gonna hurt fat people's feelings. And this is something I tell people all the time when when they ask me about weight loss or making the decision to lose weight or whatever. If you have to put yourself first, and if the people in your life don't like that you're doing that, then like, they are not meant to be in your life. They were not meant to be in your life for the long haul anyways. And yeah, so that was that. Now let's move on to the next one. I will say I have 5 queued up here, and 3 out of the 5 are Fierce Fat Femme videos. So yeah, and this is one of them. I think we have all 3 of them in order right now.
If I see one more video being like Kelly Clarkson and her revenge body, I'm gonna actively lose it. I mean, I already am. It is not getting revenge on an ex or a partner by becoming thin or losing weight. What you're saying when you say that is that you believe that fat people are not attractive or not hot enough, and so to actively really make your partner regret breaking up with you, or make your ex regret breaking up with you, you become thin, aka attractive by Eurocentric beauty standards. You know, you could talk about Kelly Clarkson and her amazing voice without talking about her body. I know. And I thought we had all agreed that, like, Revenge Body, the show by what's-her-face, one of the Kardashians, it was a stupid idea and fatphobic and harmful and centered in diet culture. I thought we had all agreed on that. No? Yeah, we did? Or no?
Okay, so this one is in here because I am actually planning on making a video soon-ish about the portrayal of fat people and fatness in media, particularly like pop culture and stuff like that, because I think it is something that has affected me personally my entire life, and specifically with fat women. And yeah, and that is very much going to be a sympathetic to fat people video, because it is something that I wholeheartedly agree is an issue. And I do think this concept of a revenge body has been such a staple like in media. I don't think it's surprising that other forms of media are marketing Kelly Clarkson's weight loss as a revenge body because she got divorced and all that. I don't know how Kelly Clarkson did it. I don't know if she's on Ozempic or anything like that. I think with Kelly Clarkson, and I don't want to speak for her because I am not Kelly Clarkson, although to be able to sing like that is a superpower, so like part of me kind of wishes I was her. Anyways, I do think that a lot of emphasis gets put on specifically female celebrities after they go through a breakup or a divorce or whatever, and they get hot, they change their look. Mainly they just change their look, and changing their look comes with losing weight usually. I think personally, and I'm just speaking from experience here, that I think if you are in a relationship that is not suited for you, you tend to like lose yourself a little bit. A lot of times women lose themselves a lot, and I think part of what is being marketed by the media as a revenge body is really just Kelly Clarkson getting herself back and getting healthier, whatever that means for her. I do think she has kids, so like I could see her wanting to lose weight and get herself back post divorce like that, or just make herself better, the best self she's ever been for herself, for her kids. And so I don't think that's something that we should ignore. But I really think that after you go through a breakup or whatever, which I am right now, but there's no revenge needed. There is something to be said about really spending that time with yourself again and not having the pressures of having to be there for another person, and how that can positively affect your health and your overall look and everything like that. And I honestly think that's what we're seeing with Kelly Clarkson is like, I don't think, maybe she did set out to have a revenge body. And honestly, if you want to get hot after a breakup, do it. Like, who cares? Do what you want to do with your body. And I think that just kind of encompasses my entire issue with fat acceptance, is like claim themselves to be feminists, but bodily autonomy is just like not a thing for them when it comes to weight loss. I maybe Kelly Clarkson wanted to get hot after her divorce like Adele did, and she's very open about that, and I give Adele so many props for that. But like, who knows and who really cares? I think the media is marketing it as a revenge body. I personally think that there's a lot more behind it than that. And also, yes, Khloe Kardashian's revenge body show was very rooted in very harmful diet stereotypes and all of that. I just don't like the Kardashians though, so that's a personal bias that I have.
Okay, so is it time for us to have a conversation yet about what's happening in the fat community? What do you think, Max? This is a yes. So we have, of course, seen a large uptick, pun intended, of fat creators now posting about their intentional weight loss and really like hyping up Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy, and other mechanisms, and also just like, I guess, natural intentional weight loss. Here's the thing. The problem is not the weight loss, although of course there can be lots of frustrating feelings regarding weight loss. The problem is when you are on an intentional weight loss journey and then you also intentionally shit on the fat community at the same time. So here's the thing. Number one, you can go on an intentional weight loss journey without then talking shit about the fat community, especially for those of you whose platforms were built by the plus size community, and those brand deals you got were also from partnerships with plus size companies and size expansions and other things of that sort. So you can do that without then calling the fat acceptance community and fat liberation a cult. It's also just not very original, this is number two, to spew anti-fat bias in ways by like saying the fat acceptance community is a cult, or saying that like you gotta watch your health, like all the things that fat phobia has taught us. Like, get an original argument at least is all I'm like hoping you'll do in the meantime. And the third piece here is that I have seen a lot of these fat creators who are on an intentional weight loss journey then kind of like saying like, people are mad at me and people hate me because I'm losing weight. And it's like, let's not conflate the feelings here. So yes, there probably is a group of people who are upset at you and angry at you because you are now spewing the fat phobic diet rhetoric that they were trying to escape. But also, mostly people are upset with you that instead of just losing weight and doing that whole thing and not shitting on fat people, you chose to do both of those things, lose weight and then denounce the fat community. That is what we're angry about. We're angry that you then shat upon us all in the fat community. Again, not original. Again, try something new. Again, you do not have to do those things. You do not have to start spewing anti-fat biases. And the final thing I want to say, let me get into some theory here, okay? There is a communication studies theory. It's called in-group and out-group. And when you are a part of the out-group, aka in this situation, a fat person in a fat-phobic society, once you have a little taste of the power and privilege you can get when you become a part of the in-group, for this instance, thin privilege, you then make sure to show that you are different from the out group that you once belonged to, usually by shitting on that group, right? And denouncing them and saying like, I'm not like one of those fatties. I'm currently losing weight. Can you see my collarbone? Okay, so you get that taste of privilege, that taste of power, and you're like, how do I keep getting it? So I do have sympathy for you. That is a delicious feeling to have power. And also, I'll remind you of what it is like to be fat in this world, in this society, specifically in the US. And I'll remind you that you only have a small taste of thin privilege. And if you continue to stay plus size, even while losing weight, you will never have all of the thin privilege that being thin gives you. So you will still be oppressed by the power dynamic. And if you do happen to gain weight, or if you do happen to have this moment where your pendulum comes back to a more steady middle ground, the fat community will remember. We will. And most likely, statistically, it will happen that you will gain weight back. This is like the science part of the conversation. So anyways, you don't need to turn your back on the communities that you belong to. Just a reminder. You don't have to do it.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there, and I don't think I've talked about this one yet, because I know Fierce Fat Femme has had similar conversations to this in the past that we have talked about, but I don't think I've talked about this particular one yet. And so, first off, fat activism being a cult. I am actually, and I've talked about this, I want to make a video using like the bite model and stuff to actually like see if anything aligns with it. And honestly, I think a lot of things could be like dubbed a cult and not just fat activism, like for sure. But I just think it would be interesting because they're all vehemently denying like having any kind of cult-like tendencies, right? That's coming. I want to do that video. I'm gonna order a magnifying glass and everything just to be ridiculous. But yes, so I think my biggest issue with this conversation surrounding former fat activism, body positivity-ish creators now using resources like Wegovy and Mounjaro and stuff like that, and Ozempic, using it as a way to lose weight and then quote unquote shitting on fat people or shitting on their fat followers and stuff like that. I think my biggest issue is that I would love to see some context. I would love to see some examples, just so people who are taking in content from people like Fierce Fat Femme can have the full picture. Because ever since my video with Rosie, me and Rosie are talking about Rosie Beam, and her experience like leaving that content behind ever since she started Mounjaro and stuff like that, we've been having some chef's kiss conversations in the DMs, and like it's not my story to tell and I'm not going to do that, but like the videos and the content that gets used against her that she's now making about her weight loss being accused of shitting on fat people is not that, like, just objectively it's not that. And so like I really would love to just see some examples of what they're talking about, because honestly I also want to know if I'm missing anything, right? And so I think that is like my biggest issue with this conversation is like, please show examples and please name names, and please, like, when the whole thing with Gabriella Lascano happened last year, like we knew that was about her, right? And so like I would love to just see some context. And I don't think that's much to ask for. I think that's important to making an argument also, is showing the context and showing what you're talking about. Sorry, something is happening on my ear. Do I understand where some of the critique can come from, that like you built your platform on being fat, being plus size, you got brand deals on that, all of those kinds of things, and now you're losing weight. Do I understand where someone like Fierce Fat Femme or people who make content like them, where that anger comes from? Yes, but only if, and I can only fully understand it if I am given proper context of what it is they are talking about. Because if they are talking about the kind of content that like Gabriella Lascano started making after she started openly losing weight, what the kind of content Rosie's making now, like that is not being hateful towards fat people. One creator that it's been fascinating to watch, compared to other creators I've now seen who have been part of like fat acceptance, body positivity, and are now losing weight, is actually Daddy DMC. And we talked about her in the Shein trip video. I still follow her. I followed her for years. But she has been like visibly losing weight, like on her I follow her on Instagram. Like I've been able to see that she's losing weight. But I don't really think she's talked about it. She's just doing it. And honestly, I respect the hell out of her for that. And I think this is a bigger conversation. Like, do fat activism or do any kind of body positivity or fat activist creators, or just anybody who centers their entire brand around their body and what they look like, when they change it, and if they go about changing it, do they owe a conversation of how or why? Because I think that's an interesting conversation to have, and I don't have an answer. I think my biggest issue, like I said, lies with the fact that they just don't give any context and they don't give any examples as to who they're talking about or what kind of messaging they're talking about seeing. Because if it's the kind that like I said, that Rosie's making, or that anybody else really is making, that I've seen in the fat acceptance realm of people who have decided to start taking weight loss drugs, it's not shitting on fat people. Any example I have seen, they are only talking about their own experiences, which again, if we go back to Splotchmaker's video, and Splotchmaker is a very prominent fat activist content creator, especially on TikTok, they don't see that weight loss can just be a personal decision and can just be based on personal experiences and all of that. Again, the lack of bodily autonomy when it comes to this conversation in a self-proclaimed feminist group, as a feminist myself, really pisses me off. Also, when it comes to the topic of weight loss drugs and Mounjaro and Ozempic and stuff like that, like, besides Anna, Glitter and Lasers, most former body positive fat activist people who are now on these drugs are very forthcoming about it. And Daddy DMC, I don't know if that's what she's doing or not, given the seeming speed that she has lost her weight at. Like I could see it being that route, and I don't know if she's talked about it. I have not seen her talk about it, but she also just straight up isn't addressing her weight loss. So it's like, I don't know what to do in that situation. But I have seen, except for Glitter and Lasers, most people are very forthcoming about why they started these drugs, what they're on them for, and a lot of times it's not just for weight loss, it is for other medical reasons. And I think that is also something that needs to be addressed by fat activists as well, is the fact that a lot of former fat activist content creators who are now going on these drugs are not going on them just for weight loss. Like, a lot of times they are being used as a medication. to combat other things that come along with being super morbidly obese. And so I think that is also a big point of conversation that is lost when they're talking about weight loss drugs and stuff like that. And yeah, so okay. I'm going to do one more actually, and I think we're going to call it at that. I'm going to save the one where Fierce Fat Femme like openly talks about why she doesn't think fat activism is a cult, and just move on to this next one because it is kind of long.
I'm still trying to figure out how you go from promoting self-acceptance, body positivity, fat activism, to creating content that trolls fat people. I'm trying to find the connection on how that happened. Now, I truly believe that if you want to be on Ozempic, Wegovy, or whatever it is that you want to be on, you should. And sorry, my light died, so I had to put on the big one. Like I was saying, I do believe that if you want to be on Wegovy, Ozempic, you should be on it. It's your right. It's your body. I think a lot of the reason why you're seeing a lot of fat content creators come up and say, hey, I don't want to be fat anymore, or I hate being fat, and I'm going to do everything that I can to be away from that community, is because a lot of you guys didn't really understand what actual body positivity was and what true fat activism is. I think this comes from the very basic superficial idea that you're supposed to love your body no matter how big you are, no matter how small you are, when in reality we were all fighting for equality in body sizes, whether it was in the fashion industry, whether it was in doctor offices. We all wanted to have the same care. Fat people know that when you go into an office, no matter what the ailment, no matter what the condition you may be talking about, your weight is always the main reason that you are spoken to, or the main problem that needs to be fixed, no matter what you say. But being a content creator that has created content specifically for fat people, and then turn the flip because you feel like this community was so toxic, is one thing. Like, for you to think that the community is toxic is fine. Like, no community is perfect, obviously. And I think that now creating content that trolls fat people, whether you see it as that or not, is descarada. I don't even know how to say it, how to explain it, but it's just like, you have no shame. I repeat, no one cares the reasons of what you do with your body. When we were talking about activism, body neutrality, whether it be body positivity or fat activism, what we were all trying to do is create a sense of equality when it came to laws, when it came to the options that we've received in the fashion industry, and proper care for fat people. But for you, or for those people that you see that are now going against fat people, it was all about being superficially okay with yourself. And I'm not blaming them. I'm not blaming anyone. I think it's the lack of knowledge. And as a fat person, I do recommend that you do all the research that you can on what it is to be a fat person. Aside from your own personal experience, the politics behind it can be very helpful. And a lot of the women that I see are white women, and to me, it's so obvious the privilege that you carry, that you can make it okay to flip a button one day and just be like, this is it. Now I hate being fat, and I hate everyone that's fat. And you may not be saying that out loud, but your actions, your comments, and the comments that you do are saying it for you. And before I go, what I was just trying to say, but I'm not sure if I did say it correctly, please don't tag anyone who you think this video is about. I originally was going to stitch someone who created content recently trolling fat people and them being a fat person. But then I decided that I don't want to create negativity, but start a good conversation and talk about why is it that even if for you personally you need to lose weight for whatever reason it is, because I, again, don't care. That's something that is with you and your doctor, no one else. But why do you have to attack a community that you made so much money off of and created a platform off of? But just keep that in mind. And I hope that those people who are still trying to find some peace within their issues with body, that you get the proper care that you need, whether it's a therapist, doctor, even just starting talking to a friend. I hope that you keep yourself in a sane, safe place, and I wish you all the best.
Okay, I'm taking out this because this is bothering me. I think this was made about Rosie. I think this video was made about a video that Rosie made, kind of trolling herself, to be honest. And it was like, she was on a walking pad, and I can't remember what she said specifically, but it was like something about like getting your steps in, or like finally losing weight because you wanted to live to see 40 or something like that. And like, I saw it as her trolling the like dudes, particularly in her comments, and people in her comments being like, you're never gonna live till you're 40 and blah blah blah. Like, that's how I saw it. But and even in talking to her, like, I think she understood that how her fat followers and stuff like that could have taken that video. I think this was made about her, just given the timing of everything. And honestly, I want to give this creator a lot of like props and flowers, because this is probably one of the more nuanced takes I've seen on this entire conversation. So yeah, first of all, props to her. Also, she's beautiful. I love her look in this video. I wish my hair was thick enough to have bangs as thick as that. But it is not. I think this video also kind of exemplifies my issue with the fat activism movement as we see it now, especially after making that history lesson video, because honestly, that was like very eye-opening for me, making that video. Like, I had no idea, specifically learning about the fat underground and stuff like that. Do I think that a lot of their messaging was kind of misguided and stuff like that? Yes. But do I think it was like more well-intentioned at that time than what we're seeing now? Is absolutely. And I do think that fat activism now has very much kind of lost the plot, and like this creator talks about too, the conversation surrounding fatness and race, like that intersectionality is a big conversation. Do I think that they bring in race? I'm not saying this creator did this, but do I think that creators often bring in race as a way to bolster up their otherwise like very weak arguments? Yes, and I have a whole video on that. You guys know it's like one of my most viewed videos. But I do think that there is a conversation to be had, and it's not really an experience, obviously, that I can talk about. I do think that there are some very valid conversations that can be had around that, and I'm not going to talk about that here because it's just not something that I can lend any experience to. Yeah, but do I think that, again, I understand where this creator is coming from with not wanting to garner negativity and to just be able to start an honest conversation. I get that, and I respect the hell out of that. But again, I think in this kind of context, it's important to provide context and to provide what you're and to show what you're talking about, because like, I think it really is important to do that so that your audience can form their own opinions and you're not creating like this kind of echo chamber. Because even I, like in my reaction videos and stuff, have had people disagree with how I understood or how I came to understand a video that I'm talking about or I'm reacting to, right? And I think that's so important to have in these conversations, because it's just important. Like, it's important when you're combating things or when you're arguing things that you provide all of the context that is necessary, in my opinion. And I really think that fat activists do themselves a disservice by not providing examples and not providing context. I do think that fat liberation and fat activism and stuff, specifically when it came to the fat underground in the 60s, I do think it did start with like some very reasonable asks, and a lot of it was based in how fat people are treated at the doctors and how fat people are treated they mentioned the legal system when it came to like SA and things like that. And I think those are very valid things to bring up, because I do think that fat people are I think there is a lot of fat bias in the medical system, specifically for fat women. And I think those are all very, very important things to talk about. But I do think that they have started othering themselves even more and separating themselves even more and isolating themselves even more. As we see it now on TikTok, because they're creating these echo chambers that we see all the time, and it's not really helping the conversation at all. And I think providing context of what you're talking about can really help your audience understand you more and can help your audience form their own opinions, and I think would also go along with people agreeing with you more, to be honest. And yeah, so I have been filming for a very long time. This has taken a lot longer than I thought it was going to. But I'm gonna go. I think a lot of this actually wound up being about the topic of weight loss drugs, former fat activists losing weight, stuff like that. So I made a theme and I didn't even know it. Go me. Anyways, let me know what you guys think down below. I do think that this is a pretty nuanced conversation, but I do think it also just boils down to bodily autonomy as a thing, and anybody can do whatever they want with their health, as long as it's like not harming other people. Then yeah, so let me know what you think down below. Thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring today's video. I have genuinely really been enjoying Aura. I used it again this morning and I filmed this on a different day than I filmed the initial ad read. Be sure to be one of the first 500 people to use that link down below to get your free trial and 25% off after the free trial ends, because I really do think that this is a great service. I've really been enjoying it, like I said. And yeah, thank you so much to them for sponsoring this video. But as always, thank you so much to you guys for continuing to interact with my content and have really cool conversations down below. And in my Discord server, I do have a Discord server, FYI. I always forget to promote it, but I do have a Discord server. It's linked down below. And we have lots of cool conversations down there. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, drink your water, take your meds, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.